Hi, this is Pete Saltonstall, and along with my wife Tacey, we own King Ferry Winery. So I'm making this video for our staff down in the city that's selling at the green markets, and I'm hoping that just some of the stuff that I say here will help you, have more knowledge about the wines and hopefully help you sell the wines. So to start with, the Silver Lining Chardonnay, this wine came about because I had enough people asking for a Chardonnay with no oak. And so we made this as an unoaked Chardonnay. It's not made in barrels. It's made in stainless steel tanks. And it's a very simple, bright, clean, crisp wine. And it has just a hint of residual sugar. So it shouldn't be talked about as a sweet wine. It has just a hint of sweetness. And that's how I talk about it. But it's a nice replacement for people who are looking for a Pinot Grigio or a Sauvignon Blanc. It's a fun summer wine. The next Chardonnay up is Tacey's Chardonnay. So this Chardonnay used to be called the Maine Chardonnay for 25 years. And so in the last couple of years, we decided that my wife, who's my partner, should have a wine named after her. And this is actually the wine that she drinks most often. So she always has a glass or two of this every day. So when I talk about it, I tell people this is a great everyday Chardonnay that my wife literally has every day. So it's a fun story to tell. And my wife is intimately involved in the blending of this wine. And there's some funny stories with that, but I can leave those for later on. But anyway, this is my wife's favorite wine of all the wines that we make. So you can tell people that. It's a nicely balanced barrel fermented Chardonnay. It is made in oak barrels, but very light amount of oak. There's a buttery characteristic that it has just a very small amount of, but it has some nice complexity, and that's what my wife likes about it. Next up is the dry Riesling. We make 4 Rieslings, and one of the things you can tell people is here's a grape variety that we make 4 very different wines from. So the dry Riesling is very much of a food wine, and when I say that, it has bright acidity, so it tends to pair well with things like pan-seared scallops or grilled shrimp or some salmon. But it may not necessarily be a wine that somebody would just sit down and have a glass of because it's bright and crisp and fairly high acid. But it lends itself, it's a wonderful food wine, and I think people will enjoy it. Next up is a semi-dry Riesling. The semi-dry is, along with the Wobbly Rock, these are 2 sweeter Rieslings. The semi-dry had been up until the release of the Wobbly Rock, our biggest seller. And the semi-dry Riesling is a wine that you can sit down and just have a glass of and be very happy. You can have it with salads. I love it with a nice bib lettuce and chopped up chicken salad in the summer. It's wonderful, and it just hits the spot. So a big crowd pleaser. And this one be when people come up and they're buying a wine for someone they don't know the person's taste. This is the wine I say, here, you should buy this, because it will appeal to the widest range of tastes. So you'll always make people happy, even if you're buying wine for someone and you don't know what they like to drink. This will make them very happy. The Wobbly Rock is a fairly new product. It's been around, this is its 2nd year. It's sweeter than the semi-dry Riesling, which is about 3.5% residual. This, I think the Wobbly is like 7% residual sugar. But in the scheme of things, it has some nice acidity to back that sweetness up. So again, it's very, very popular. And this is popular, I find, with some of the younger wine drinkers, and is selling like hotcakes. And it speaks for itself. The dry rosé is an interesting wine. It's made from red grapes. We destem and crush the fruit at harvest and let it sit for about 18 hours. And then we press it out, and the juice that we get will be colored. It'll have some characters from the skin contact, but we're not making a conventional red wine from this. Once we press it out, then we thereafter make it like a white wine. So it's a wonderful summer wine with some great character and a wonderful, rosé color. It's really a pretty wine to look at. The Melange is an interesting wine. This wine is, I always build this as sort of our introductory red. It's a very soft red wine. It's made from Leon Milo grapes, and it actually has a little bit of Chardonnay in it. And it's very popular. It's very softer and maybe not quite as heavy as our big reds, the Meritage. And so it's a good wine. It's sort of a good starter red wine for people, and it's priced accordingly. It's a good value. The Meritage probably is my favorite wine. This is a big red. It's primarily Cabernet Sauvignon. I think it's 60-some% Cab Sauv, then Merlot, and then Cabernet Franc. So this is a real, I think a crowd pleaser, because it really is. It's a nice, big, heavy-duty red wine. I love it with, I made a wonderful bean and ham soup this past winter with a nice loaf of bread. And this wine is the real deal. It's a real big and nice, well-constructed red with nice complexity. The Simone this is a blush wine. These are some of the sweeter wines I'll be talking about. The Simone is a nice picnic wine. I always tell people for, picnic in the park, this is the deal. And it's very easy to sit down. I always tell people, imagine me sitting in a, inner tube off the end of my dock with a big glass of this and maybe even a few ice cubes thrown into it, and it's fine. And the wine police won't come and take you away. It's a good wine. The Gilded Lily is another fun summer white wine. It's sweeter, but with bright acidity. It's probably, I want to say this is like 6% residual sugar, made of two varieties. I think it's Vignoles and Vidal, and very appealing. Mystère, has a very funny story to it. This is my my red wine for white wine drinkers. This is a red wine that has quite a bit of residual sugar. And when I first made this wine, one of my staff said, "Pete, we're getting a lot of requests for people who are wanting a sweet red wine." So I kind of ignored my staff, and ultimately they came in with a petition of people who wanted this wine to be made by King Ferry Winery. So off we went, and I think now we're making somewhere around 2,000 gallons of it, and it's been very popular. So again, when you're selling this is a red wine for white wine drinkers. Lastly is the Apple Mystique. The Apple Mystique is a fun wine. It's all apple. I believe there are 5 different varieties in it. I'll get those varieties for you. I can't remember them right off the top of my head. But this is a fun wine. I think, it's just totally different from all of our other wines in that it's made entirely from apples. So I think that's a big selling point. It has some bright, fresh apple character that really makes it very appealing. So I think for now, that's all that I will say about the wines. I think I'll add more stuff later on in the season, but I'm hoping that gives you a little bit more to talk about the wines. And I wish you all well, and I'll be seeing you soon. Bye-bye.